Welcome back to Wake Up America Weekend. We're continuing to follow the aftermath of Iran's attacks on Israel. The chief of Iran's armed forces saying that if Israel retaliates, their response will be much larger. As of this morning, Israeli officials have not made a decision on how they will respond.
Yeah, let's bring in a panel to weigh in on this ongoing situation, which is really materializing throughout the morning. Newsmax foreign policy analyst Walid Fares, author of The Imperialist Republic in U.S. Policy, as well as distinguished university professor at Touro University and author of the upcoming book Beyond Proportionality, Is Israel Fight a Just War in Gaza? Newsmax contributor Thane Rosenbaum. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for being with us. Walid, I want to get right to it with you. This is the first time Iran has directly attacked Israel rather than go through the various proxies. So break down for us a little bit of the history of why Iran is even attacking Israel, and how did we get to this point that they're doing it directly now and not through proxies?
Well, Iran's regime, that is, basically has multiple ways to attack Israel. The oldest way, the one that they have been using, were the proxies, the militias. And the most important achievement they think they've done was to bring those militias to the Mediterranean. We know that they have Hezbollah in Lebanon, of course, Hamas in Gaza. You have the other militias in Syria and Iraq that are surrounding Jordan as well. So the first strategy was to get the closest possible and to use one type of rockets, very limited one from Hezbollah in Lebanon and from Hamas in Gaza. Now, what they've tried to do is a first wave. We are trying to analyze now this war that has just begun. It's not the last day, and this is a wave that the Iranians believe, that's their command, that is going to prove a balance of power. What they're trying to say to their own people, that the Israelis attacked us in Syria, look what we can do. It's really a warning to the Israelis and, of course, to the Americans that if you attack us on our lands or the lands of our militias, we're going to respond. Obviously, the response of the Israelis is going to come, and that's what the Iranians are waiting for.
Thane, as we've seen, since October 7th, we're going through these negotiations. You can't negotiate with terror. Do you think there's any room left for order and conflicting parties to come together before it's too late?
Sarah, not after this escalation. This is the first time Iran has fired not just on Israel, but Israel's population centers. This is a declaration of war. This is 300 missiles fired at Tel Aviv, not fired at military installations per se, but fired at large population centers. This was not a proportional response under the laws of armed conflict. This is way beyond a proportional response, and it provides, in my view, a green light for the Israelis to finally do something about Iran that for 20 years has, ready for this, as we know, quote, said, we will wipe Israel from the map. Imagine if Canada said we're going to wipe America from the map. Those are the words that Israelis have heard for 20 years. And this is the first time, as Walid said, that Iran acted not through militias, not through proxies, but through itself. And now they've sent a very strong message. And for Israel, before, if they were worried that the United States would say, don't be the aggressor on their nuclear aspirations, Israel is now acting in self-defense. They have a blank check. They have a green light.
Well, that's a good point. Walid, let me go over to you. Thane just said they have a green light. I just said this before to some of our panelists. Is this an opportunity for Israel to do what many in the world want it to do? I believe personally you got Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and other countries in the Middle East that do not want to see a nuclear Iran. Is this an opportunity for Israel to take out some of that nuclear capability that they have been building for the last several years, and unfortunately with some of the money of the United States since we've been giving them so much money?
Absolutely. I mean, Israel now has the window, and they maneuvered very well. They absorbed that strike by the Iranians. The United States, under this administration, and that's another test we need to understand, have committed not just not to be with the Israelis in the response to Iran, this administration that is, but to protect Iran's airspace, meaning we are shifting in a very dangerous way. this administration now has signaled to the Iranians that they can actually send a second wave, that they will put pressure on the Israelis, and they will not go with the Israelis inside Iran. But the Israelis knows very well that in the region, as you just said, there are silent countries like Jordan, Saudi Arabia, maybe the UAE, Bahrain, and others. These countries know that if Israel is defeated, which is not going to happen, obviously, but it will be their turn. If the borders of northern Saudi Arabia or Jordan are basically overrun by the Iranians, then you're going to have a major Western problem. So yes, to answer your question, Israel now has that ability, strategic ability to say, I am defending myself. But let's see how they're going to do, how the Israelis are going to use that opportunity to strike or not, or half strike against the Iranians.
We have less than 30 seconds, but I just want to quickly ask you this, Thane. You're a member of the Jewish community here in the US, which we've seen unprecedented anti-Semitic attacks since October 7th. How is the Jewish community feeling post this attack? It's been less than 24 hours, but is there a concern that this will heighten?
You know, Sarah, I think the Jewish community here has been worried about the Democratic Party not supporting them. And so this gives an opportunity also for the Democratic Party to say, what does an ironclad commitment look like? Is it just ambiguous mixed messages, or do you really stand? I think it's significant that some of those missiles were knocked out of the sky by the United States. Is the United States now going to say Iran is Hamas and Hamas is Iran, and there is no temporary ceasefire, and we should increase the aid package to Israel and let Israel finish the job? I think that would go a long way to reassuring Americans that Jewish Americans that America stands behind Israel and stands behind the Jewish people.
Those are all great questions. Unfortunately, with this administration, I don't think the answers are going to be what we want to hear. But we have to leave it there. Walid Fares and Thane Rosenbaum, thank you very much for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you both.